We took the hits. We fielded the awkward questions. We sat in the meeting that would have derailed the whole sprint, and we came out and said, "Don't worry about it. I've got this. Keep building." It feels good. If we're honest, it's one of the parts of the job that we're most proud of. We think of it as shielding the team, protecting them, giving them the calm, focused space that good engineers need. And a surprising number of us measure ourselves on how well we do this. The better we are at absorbing, the better a leader we believe we're being. I want to gently take that apart today, because the more I coach technical leaders, the more I've come to believe that this particular source of pride is one of the quietest ways we hold our teams back. Not through neglect, through care, through a protective instinct that almost none of us ever stopped to examine. So the question I'd like us to sit with for the next 25 minutes or so: what if the way we're protecting our teams is what's keeping them small? If that question lands somewhere uncomfortable, you're in the right place. This is the kind of thing we work through in the coaching practice and in the cohorts at the CTO Playbook. And I'll come back to that at the end. For now, let's just stay with this idea. So let me set the scene properly, because the world this instinct lives in has changed. There's an old phrase that I'm sure you've heard: drinking from the fire hose. It describes that feeling of trying to take a sip from a stream of water so powerful it could take your head off. The volume is absurd. You're not drinking, you're just trying not to drown. Now, the phrase has been around for decades. It's most associated with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, where for generations it's been the standard way students describe what it feels like to learn there. Too much, too fast, all at once. Nobody's quite sure who said it first, which feels appropriate for a phrase about information overload. It has simply always been there. And what's interesting is that when that phrase was coined, it described an extreme, a rare, intense experience. Starting at MIT, joining a famously fast company, the Firehose was the exception. It isn't that exceptional anymore. For most of us leading technology today, the Firehose is just the weather. It's the normal condition of the role. Every day, there's more context than any one person can absorb. Market signals, customer feedback, board priorities, regulatory noise, security alerts, 3 competing strategic narratives, and now an entire industry reinventing itself every few months. We're all standing on the Firehose now. All of us. The leaders, the engineers, everyone. So that's the background to the conversation. A vast, relentless stream of context pouring down on the whole team all the time. That's the water we're all standing in. The question the rest of this episode is really about is simple. What do we do about that stream? And what do we believe our job is in relation to it? Now, here's what I see leaders do again and again. And I want to be careful here, because these are real situations and real people. And the moments when this surfaces are often sensitive ones. So I'm going to speak about the pattern rather than any one story. But please believe me that it is a pattern. I've seen it more times than I can count. What we do, faced with that fire hose, is we step in front of it. We decide that our job is to stop it from reaching the team. We stand there and we take the full force of it on their behalf, and we hold it back so that what reaches them is a calm, manageable trickle. We become a barrier between the stream and the people we lead. We build a dam. And think for a moment about what a dam actually is. A dam is a vast, immovable wall built to hold back an enormous body of water. Billions of litres pressing against it every second of every day. A dam works by being utterly fixed in place, utterly rigid. It cannot flex, it cannot move, it cannot reposition itself. Its entire function is to stand absolutely still against an enormous force and not give way. Which leads us to the first problem. And it's a simple one. We are not dams. We're human. We were never built to withstand forces on that scale. A concrete dam can hold back a reservoir. A person cannot hold back the entire information load of a growing company indefinitely without something cracking. And usually the thing that cracks is us. The exhaustion that so many technical leaders carry, that sense of being the one who holds everything together, of never quite being able to switch off, a lot of that comes from trying to be a structure that no human was ever designed to be. And there's a second problem, which matters just as much. A dam can't move. Its strength is its stillness, and its stillness is also its weakness. The role we're in needs us to be agile, to move around the stream, change position, respond to what's actually happened, get closer to some things, and step back from others. A dam can't do any of that. The moment we make ourselves into one, we've traded all of our agility for the single job of holding the water back. We've made ourselves rigid in a role that demands we stay light on our feet. And this is what surprises me every single time. When I describe this back to a leader, when I lay out what they've been doing, the most common reaction is not recognition, it's surprise. They look at me as though they're seeing it for the first time. And what they almost always say in one form or another is some version of, I never decided to do this. Right? And that's the thing I want you to hear today. Nobody trained us to be the dam. Nobody sat us down and said, look, son, your job is to absorb everything so the team doesn't have to. Right? No board ever asked of it. No engineer ever requested it. We were never led to it by example. And we were never explicitly asked. We just absorbed the assumption somewhere along the way that this is what a good and protective leader does. And then we never questioned it again. It became instinct. And instinct is the most dangerous kind of behavior there is, because it operates below the level of where we examine things. Now, I've done a whole episode on what our instincts are and how we train them. So in the context of that, this is an unquestioned instinct that we're talking about. So for example, we examine our strategies, we examine our hiring, we examine our architecture. We almost never examine the things we do on instinct because we don't even notice we're doing them. The dam is built out of instinct, and that's exactly why it is so hard to see. Now, I've got a question for you, but if you're listening while you're walking or driving or somewhere you can't write, hold this question in your mind, but be ready to think about it. Otherwise, I genuinely encourage you to write it down. Write down your answer to this. Don't rush the answer. Right. Where am I standing in front of the stream, holding something back from my team without ever having decided to do it? Not where am I helping, where am I absorbing? Where have I quietly appointed myself the barrier and called it protection? Pause this, write it down, have a think about it, come back when you're focused again. Because I know this, the cogs are going to be whirring. I've seen it so many times before when I ask this question. So, if the dam is the wrong model, well, the obvious question is, what is the right model? And I don't think the answer is to stop protecting the team. Protection is a real and good part of leadership. The answer is to change what kind of structure we are. And the model I want to offer is one every technical leader already understands at some level or other, some of us more deeply than others. A firewall. Now let's go through what a firewall actually is and think through the implications, right? Because it's the opposite of a dam in the most important way. A dam holds everything back and lets a little trickle through. A firewall lets almost everything through and just filters a few small points of it. That's the whole point of it. A firewall isn't a barrier, it's a filter. It sits in the flow, not against it. The traffic passes through it constantly in both directions, and the firewall's job is not to stop the flow. Its job is to inspect what's passing and to filter out the small number of things that are genuinely harmful. The malicious packet, the attack, the thing that would actually cause damage. A firewall that blocked all traffic wouldn't be a firewall, it would just be a disconnected cable. It would have taken the machine off the network entirely. And a leader who blocks all the context isn't protecting the team. They've taken the team off the network. They've disconnected them from the very information they need to do good work and to grow. So this is the way to look at it. And it's something we're going to come back to a few times. Our job is not to hold the stream back. Our job is to let it through and to filter out the genuinely harmful. Most of what's in that fire hose, the team can handle. Most of it, they need. Only a small fraction is genuinely toxic. The panic that would help no one. The half-formed bored anxiety that isn't real yet. The personal attack that has nothing to do with the work. That's what we filter. Everything else, we let flow. And notice what this does for us as humans in the role. A firewall doesn't have to withstand the entire force of the ocean. It isn't a wall, it's light. It can be reconfigured in seconds. It can be moved, adjusted, updated as conditions change. It lets us stay agile, exactly the thing the dam took away from us. We get to be human-sized again. We get to put down the impossible job of holding everything back and pick up the much more reasonable job of filtering thoughtfully. So if you've been feeling the strain of being the dam, here's the first thing to hear. You're allowed to stop. The water was never yours to hold back. Now, there's a deeper reason that the dam fails the team beyond what it costs us. And this is the one where, as a leader, you need to be thinking about this one. Everyone needs to learn how to drink from the fire hose. It's no longer a unique situation of leadership. Every single person on the team needs to learn how to deal with it because the fire hose isn't going away and it isn't getting smaller. The ability to stand in a stream of overwhelming context and filter it, to find the signal, to decide what matters and what to let pass, that is one of the central skills of working in the modern world. It might be the central skill. And it's a skill which means it's learned, which means it's built through practice. When we make ourselves the dam, we do all that filtering on the team's behalf. And every time we do, we take away a repetition that they needed. We're doing their reps for them at the gym and then wondering why they aren't getting any stronger. Right? The team never has to learn to filter because we've decided we'll filter it for them. So they don't. They can't. They've never been allowed to, and they'll never learn it. I've talked before on this show about how nature hates a vacuum. When we step back from something, someone steps into the space. The reverse is just as true. When we fill a space, we prevent anyone else from growing into it. A leader who filters all the context fills the entire space where their team's judgment was supposed to develop. We become the single point of failure for sense-making on our own team. Oops. Everything has to route through us because we've made it so nobody else has practice doing it. And that should worry us because it's the opposite of what we're trying to build, right? I said before that the real shift in seniority is from protecting your time by controlling decisions to multiplying your time by teaching others how to make them. The dam is control. It's us deciding we'll be the ones who handles the hard inputs. The firewall, done well, is multiplication. Because a good firewall has rules, and rules can be read and learned and eventually run by someone else. That's the move. Not to filter for the team forever, but to make our filtering visible enough that the team learns to filter for themselves, to narrate why we let this through and stop that, to show our work. So that over time, the judgment we've built up, that hard-won sense of what matters and what's just noise, stops living only in us and starts living in the whole team. Now, there's something that sits underneath all of this. Because the dam isn't really built out of laziness or even out of ego most of the time. It's built out of a belief. And it's a belief that we almost never say out loud because the moment we say it out loud, we can hear how weird it sounds. There's a line a lot of you will know from a film from the early 90s. A courtroom, one man demands the truth, the other man, cornered, roars back that he can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth, right? I don't want to get anywhere near the plot of that film, but that one line is one of the most useful things I know for holding up to technical leaders because it's the exact belief hiding underneath the dam. When we decide our job is to absorb the hard context so the team doesn't have to, what we are quietly assuming, without ever admitting it, is that they can't handle the truth. That the real picture, the messy board politics, the genuine commercial pressure, the actual state of the company would be too much for them. That we need to protect them from reality itself. And I've got to say this as plainly as I can because it's the heart of the whole episode. They can handle it. they can handle it. Our teams are made up of intelligent, capable adults who handle difficult things all day long. The assumption that they can't is not protection. It's a quiet underestimation of the very people we hired for their judgment. And they feel it, even when it's unspoken. People always know when they're being managed around rather than leveled with. The reality is that our teams not only can handle the context, they need it. Engineers make better decisions when they understand the real why, when they know that what the business is actually facing, when they can see the same stream that we can. Context isn't a burden we protect the team from. It's a raw material of good judgment, and withholding it doesn't keep them safe, it keeps them junior. And that's why this matters now more than it ever has before. For a long time, there was at least a practical argument for the leader as filter. We had access to information that the team didn't. We were in the rooms that they were not in. We had the time or the seniority or the relationships to go and digest a huge body of information and bring back the distilled version. The filtering was a service we could provide because we were uniquely positioned to provide it. It was never a great reason for the dam, but it was a reason. That reason is disappearing in front of us. AI has collapsed the cost of reaching the raw context. An engineer today can take a dense regulatory document, a sprawling incident history, a quarter's worth of customer feedback, and get to the heart of it in minutes, on their own, without us. The Firehose is no longer something only the leader can drink from on everyone's behalf. Everyone has been handed their own cup. So that old justification for the dam is gone. We're no longer the only ones who can reach the stream. And in that world, insisting on being the filter stops looking like protection and starts looking like something else. It starts to look like we don't trust them to do the thing that they're now perfectly capable of doing. The dam in the age of AI isn't just exhausting and limiting, it's faintly insulting. It tells a capable, well-equipped team that we still don't think they can handle the truth, at exactly the moment they have every tool they need to handle it. The role is changing under us. The job is moving fast, from being the person who filters a stream to being the person who teaches others how to stand in it. That's where the value is now. Not in our ability to absorb, but in our ability to develop that ability in everyone around us. So here's my second question that I've got for you. And again, write it down if you can. Think about it if you're driving or running on a treadmill somewhere where you can't write. What have you been filtering for your team that they could learn to filter for themselves? Pick something real, something you've been quietly handling, telling yourself you're saving them the trouble, and ask honestly whether the trouble was the point, whether the struggle of filtering it was exactly the repetitions that they needed. So let's bring this together into something you can actually take into your week. But I'm going to be a little bit careful about the form this takes, because the worst thing I could do right now is hand you a neat filter checklist. That would be me being the dam for you. So these aren't steps. They aren't tactics. They're postures, ways of standing in the role. 4 of them. The first posture, from dam to firewall. Right? The shift from holding the stream back to filtering it. Stop measuring yourself on how much you absorb on the team's behalf, and start measuring yourself on how much good context you let safely through. Let most of it flow. Filter only what's genuinely harmful, and notice when you catch yourself blocking something, whether it's actually toxic or just uncomfortable or just easier to handle yourself. The second posture, from filtering for them to teaching the filters. This is the one that multiplies you. When you do filter something, don't do it silently. Narrate it. Show the team why you let this through and held that back. Make your judgment visible so that the thing you spent a career building, your sense of what matters, starts to transfer. Right? You're not trying to be a better filter. You're trying to make yourself unnecessary as one. Third posture, from protecting them from the truth to trusting them with it. Assume as your default that your team can handle reality. Share the real why. Bring them the actual picture, not the sanitized one. And when you feel the urge to protect them from some hard context, treat that urge as a signal to examine, not a command to obey. Ask yourself whether you're protecting them or quietly underestimating them. And the fourth posture, from the static wall to the agile leader. Don't make yourself rigid. The whole trap of the dam is that it can only do one thing in one position forever. Stay light. Stay able to move around the stream, closer to some things, further away from others, as the situation actually demands it. Your value is in your judgment and your movement, never in your ability to stand still and absorb a force no human was ever meant to hold. So let's bring it back to where we started. We're all standing under the fire hose now. That isn't going to change, and it isn't a problem to be solved. It's just a condition of the work. The question was never whether we can stop the stream. The question was what kind of structure we choose to be in relation to it. We can be the dam, rigid, immovable, taking the full force on behalf of everyone behind us, slowly cracking under a load no person was ever built to carry, and quietly keeping our teams from ever learning to stand in the water themselves. Or we can be the firewall, light, agile, sitting in the flow rather than against it, letting through almost everything and filtering only what would truly do harm, and showing our work as we do it so that over time, everyone around us learns to filter too. The dam protects people from the truth. The firewall trusts them with it and teaches them what to do with it. One of those keeps a team small, the other one grows them. And here's the last thing. If you've been the dam, and a lot of us have, it isn't a failure. It's an instinct you were never asked to examine until now. The discomfort of seeing it clearly isn't a sign you've been doing it wrong. It's a sign that you're ready to do it differently. So if this is the kind of thing that you're wrestling with, the move from holding everything together to building a team that can hold its own, that's the work that we do at the CTO Playbook. You can explore the coaching, the cohorts, and how to stay up to date at thectoplaybook.com, helping you build your own playbook for your path at your pace. Until next time, keep leading with clarity. Thank you for listening to the whole episode. I appreciate your time. So just before you go, I'd like to ask you for a favor in return for putting together this episode of the CTO Playbook for you. Please share the episode with just one person who will appreciate it. Wherever you're listening, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or another platform, sharing the episode will help more CTOs find the podcast and enable me to create more great content. Remember that you can find more information on thectoplaybook.com. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the CTO Playbook.